Every semester, I'm reminded that listening is one of the most difficult concepts to actually apply to our lives. We often neglect the receiver side of the listening equation, and we spend more time considering how we can get our point across through our own words and nonverbal behaviors. However, as we know from Chapter 1 and the communication model, receiving messages is just as important as sending them. Sometimes it's even more important. I want to take you through a brief reflection activity today that helps you consider how your own listening needs and skills will impact your relationships. Again, you will need to find a quiet place away from distractions. I know it's hard, but go ahead and take a minute to get settled. All right, close your eyes or look at something beautiful or just kind of get into your own head. Think about the past week or conversations that you've had today where you were the sender. You were trying to get your point across. Was there a time when you felt dismissed or like the other person didn't care what you were talking about? Was there a time when you chose not to say anything because you thought the other person wouldn't listen? Were you ever just misunderstood after trying to explain yourself or your idea? Open your eyes. I bet you could think of a time or two. We all know what it's like not to have another person listen to us when we really need it. It stinks. What can you do the next time you feel like a conversation isn't going the way you had hoped or that you need someone to listen to you? Let me give you an example. I worked with two guys on a leadership team that met regularly to consider how we could encourage those that we managed in their positions. We often started our meetings by checking in with one another and seeing how we were doing. One day, one of the guys walked in and he just started talking about himself and all the great ideas that he had. It was important that we listened to him, but it took up most of our meeting time. Towards the end of our meeting, he looked at my other colleague and said, "How are you today?" And he simply responded with, "I really needed to be listened to today." Neither one of us knew quite what to say or how to respond, except that we were sorry that we didn't listen. I'll never forget that moment and the power of his honesty about his own needs. Maybe you might need to do something similar. His simple statement has impacted the way that I enter meetings or conversations, myself and with others. All right, so now let's look at another one. Let's look at you being the receiver. Think again about the conversations that you've had today or this week. Again, close your eyes or focus on something beautiful. Have you dismissed someone else or just missed out on a conversation? Have you been distracted by technology, your own agenda, or some other form of psychological noise that made listening more difficult for you? When could have you done a better job of seeking understanding, even when you disagreed? Was it at work? Was it with your friends? Was it with a family member or romantic partner? What was it about that particular interaction that made it more difficult for you to listen? Is this a consistent pattern or something that just happens every so often? What can you do to improve your listening ability the next time? Open your eyes. When we're honest with ourselves, we know that we need to improve our listening in at least one, if not several interactions throughout our day. Sometimes a lack of listening can lead to a misunderstanding about expectations at work, and we can really mess up. Other times it can lead to rifts or just frustrations in our personal relationships with those that we're close with. Listening takes intentionality, takes approaching situations with the desire to listen. Take some of the steps that the text recommends to improve your listening behaviors, maybe in just one area. All right, we're going to end on a positive note. Again, think back about the conversations that you've had today or this week. Close your eyes or focus on something beautiful. When were you able to give focused listening attention to another person? When did you fully understand another's point of view? When were you able to be empathetic in a way that helped someone else? Were you able to get a clear grasp of a work project or customer need? Were you able to solve a problem by listening first? Did you grow or were you changed at all by listening to someone else? I'm sure that you've had at least one interaction where you can say yes to one of those questions. Good for you. These are signs that listening is happening and your relationships are thriving. Savor and enjoy those moments and seek to foster more like those in the day to come. build upon the strengths of your listening. Happy listening.